We know Resident Evil 9 is in development. We don't know when it will get announced, perhaps this coming week at Summer Game Fest, but there are rumors going around, and I saw this on The Gamer, written by James Lucas. Resident Evil 9 might wrap up the 20-year-old story that began in Spencer Mansion. Well, it's actually 29 years. Because the original Resident Evil released in 1996, and the last time I checked, 25 plus 4 is 29. Anyway, last year Capcom confirmed that Resident Evil 9 was in development, but it didn't share any details about the game, let alone footage, and it's been radio silence ever since. With a reveal reportedly due later this year, ahead of its alleged launch in 2026, leaker Dusk Golem has compiled a list of everything they know about the hotly anticipated survival horror sequel. Now, when you're a leaker and your name is Dusk Golem, I'm assuming that this guy has had reliable information in the past, and they're not just writing an article just based on what some random dude said on the internet. I'm going to assume that here, even though I have no idea who Dusk Golem is. So will everyone be in RE9? Well, let's get to the rumors. And as pointed out, where do these get these names? And as pointed out by /1 Piggy on the block, an interesting highlight is that it will allegedly tie the knot on the entire Resident Evil franchise, concluding the story that began in 1996. Yes, the rumors coming from the #1 Piggy on the block and Dusk Golem, and I'm assuming they're credible sources here. Resident Evil 9 is going to be a conclusion game, they said, but also a game of new beginnings. We'll see major status quo changes within the universe. It's being treated as the end of the story that started with Resident Evil 1 or 0 timeline-wise, opening the series up for different kinds of horror stories. I thought they've already kind of done that. If you take Chris Redfield out of 7 and 8, it is a new status quo. It is like, even with Chris in it, everything has changed. So I feel like they've already done that. I don't know if they feel like maybe pumping out 2, 3, and 4 remakes, that people are now fresh with that story again in their head, so they want to wrap that up, which is quite possible. So maybe 9 will be playing, instead of playing off set where 7 and 8 went, maybe 2, 3, and 4, and Jill and Leon and all that, we're going to wrap that up with RE9. That's possible. But is that necessary? Do you really have to end that story and start with a new one? I mean, it's kind of just morphing and continuing into new stories anyway. I don't know. Your favorite was 4 for the Wii. I heard that version is awesome, so I got it. But I have never played the Wii version, but I do have it. Are they still using the GameCube RE1 for the starting point? I think so. I think they forget that the original happened. At least he pointed out 1996. But I think 0 actually is the starting time point now. The GameCube Resident Evil 0. 7 and 8 were new. Anyway, 7 was new. It brought the series back. Yeah, if Chris Redfield wasn't in 7 or 8, you would think that this has already happened. Allegedly taking center stage is Leon Kennedy, who hasn't been seen outside of the remakes and CGI films since Resident Evil 6 in 2012. Leon is back in the forefront because of the 2 and 4 remakes. But yeah, as far as the newer games, not remakes, we haven't seen him in years. 13 years. Reportedly, he will be the main character, as Capcom views Resident Evil 9 as the conclusion of his trilogy, tying directly into the RE2 and RE4 remakes. If you're wondering where Resident Evil 6 fits in, it probably won't. Alright, so that sounds like, if this is true, that's what they're doing. Forget that 5 and 6 happened. You know 7 and 8. Well, now you know the remakes, and we're just going to make 9 follow the Resident Evil 2 and 4 remakes, and maybe Resident Evil 8. That's what it sounds like, which would be kind of weird. Leon would be pretty old, because Resident Evil 2 remake still took place in 1998. So Leon be up there in age. Yeah, see, I didn't play the DLC for 8, so I don't know how Rose's story ended. So that's even a time jump with her, because she was a baby in RE8, and how old was she in the DLC? So how old is Leon now? 60? Basically RE6 is getting retconned. I don't know if this rumor's true. Maybe, or just like forgetting it even existed. The way this is being explained is kind of odd. Obviously, I'm going to buy it. I'm deep in the series, but this kind of sounds weird. Yeah, and again, we got to take all this with a grain of salt. Who knows if this is accurate? You know, these are rumors. Shouldn't put a number on it then. Yeah, they'll probably make it like Village. Like Resident Evil Village technically didn't have the 8 in the title, but it was in the logo. They'll probably do something like that again. So if Rose is 15 or 16, after Resident Evil 8, it's been 15 years. How many years was Resident Evil 8 after Resident Evil 2? Leon's gonna be old as Jill should be old. Ada, Rebecca. Yeah, well, Rebecca was like 15, right? But yeah, she would probably be in her 40s or something by now. Dusk Golem claimed in a follow-up comment that Capcom is kinda ignoring Resident Evil 6 with this trilogy thought process. It's easy to see why. The game was so universally panned that it brought Resident Evil to a complete standstill as the studio scrambled to course correct. Yeah, but didn't that game sell insane amounts of copies? They even did a remaster of it. It was an Xbox 360 PS3 game. They remastered it, 6, for Xbox One and PS4. As for where Jill Valentine fits in, who alongside Chris Redfield pioneered the series in the 90s, it's unclear. The original concept for Resident Evil 9 was reportedly the opposite of Resident Evil 7, supposedly because it failed to meet sales goals. Wow, when did they make that determination? Because yeah, it even says here, it's since sold over 10 million units, becoming one of the best-selling games in the series. According to Dusk Golem, Resident Evil 9 would have been an open-world co-op game set on a fictional Singapore island. Oh my god, that would have been terrible. But they claim that this version was scrapped in 2020 to 2021. Jill Valentine was the co-op partner in this initial version of Resident Evil 9, but she plays no major role in the final game. The final game is not co-op, it's single player. Okay, but still, Resident Evil 1 was single player. You chose Jill, or you chose Chris. Resident Evil 2 was single player. You chose Leon, or you chose Claire. We can still do things like that, or you can switch back and forth between characters. To me, has a Leon and Jill game been like a no-brainer? How has that not happened? Resident Evil 8 takes place in 2013. Okay, so then it would be 2028 possibly at the DLC, which would be 30 years after Resident Evil 2. So Leon is definitely in his 50s, if that is the case. No, you're wrong on that. It takes place in 2021. Okay, so yeah, Leon is then, Leon's in his 60s if Resident Evil 9 takes place after the Shadow of Rose DLC. It probably won't. Sheva. What happened to Sheva? What happened to her? But to me, like, the Leon and Jill game is a no-brainer for some point. Yeah, like, who doesn't want to see them team up? So I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. They need to do it with this one. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some type of tease or reveal at Summer Games Fest with this, but I'm telling you, the money is in a Jill and Leon game, where you either can choose one or the other, or you switch back and forth. The switching back and forth will probably make more sense in today's day and age. I think that's the money. I hope Resident Evil 9 goes with Jill and Leon as playable characters.